But take a look at how our surroundings influence our mindset. Meaning, if right now you turn on the news, or if you go to the grocery store and you see those magazines, right? What are those tabloids saying? Those tabloids are always saying, look, Lisa lost 14 pounds in 5 seconds. Look at this beautiful meal prepped, all done, all of it already terminado, right? Nobody likes to talk about the little mundane things like, hey, guess what? Lisa made 3 phone calls to Fizbos today. Woo! No one gives a shit about that, right? But that's a very important day though, right? Because that's little things that add up to something bigger later on. But no one wants to talk about. Same thing with Instagram and Facebook. That's just everyone's best foot forward. Everything looks great on Facebook. Everything looks great on Instagram. But no one's showing you all the years of work that went in to getting all the results. Like me, I've lost so far 27 pounds. Since December 2018 to today, 28 pounds lighter. Awesome, right? I'm like, it looks so easy. But you guys weren't with me about 18 months ago when I was like, dude, what am I gonna do? Then doing push-ups 1 at a time, 2 at a time, 3 at a time, then building that up, and then eating a little bit better. But it's a whole process. There's no overnight success, and you guys know that, right? So what happens is then we see the outcome. We're like, oh, I want to lose that weight. I want to do it. Then we think of a system of how to achieve those outcomes. But here's the problem, and here's not a problem, but here's what the science shows of what's holding people back. Behind every system of actions that people take is a system of what? Beliefs. And I'm going to clarify that, but that's a powerful statement because you do what you do today because you believe in what you're doing right now, whether it's good or bad. And we'll touch that in just a second. So now, to help me illustrate this example, let's talk about making money. There's 2 ways to make money. And we'll talk about this belief level of this. So we go to college or we go to high school, we graduate, we get a job. The majority of us go get a job. And then what happens is you either have an employee way of making money or a what? Or an entrepreneurial way of making money. 99% of us here in this room grew up learning what system? Employee, okay? Because mom and dad were probably employees. Abuelita y abuelo were probably employees. Very few times you find business owners, right? They go ahead and do so, but even when a business owner has kids, they teach them the business owner way of making money, right? They pass on the way that they learned it. But since we came from employees, we learned an employee belief system. Okay, Andy, what the heck does an employee belief system mean? Meaning, you believe as an employee on a deep level that there is structure in your life, meaning there's a consistent paycheck, and also you work and you always get a result. Does that make sense? Every other week, depositan cheques en tu banca. My Spanish is awful now. They deposit checks in your account, right? Every 2 weeks. You get it no matter what. If you work 10 hours that week, you get paid for 10 hours. If you work 60 hours, you get paid 60 hours, right? It's a very simple, structured way of making money. You're like, okay, Andy, why are we talking about this? Well, then you have entrepreneur beliefs. An entrepreneur believes financial freedom, right? You can make as little or as much money as possible. You can work as little or as much as you want. 20 hours, 10 hours, 80 hours a week, whatever you want to do. Work at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Absolutely you can. And also, work doesn't always lead to a result. Does that make sense?
No.
And as a realtor, does that make even more sense to you?
No.
Yes. You mean to tell me that you guys could be working a deal for months, maybe years, and still get 0 because something last minute fell through?
Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely right. That's the nature of your game, right? But the problem is a lot of people are still with the employee identity though. And I'll get to that in just a second. So when an employee decides that they're tired of the employee lifestyle and want the ability to have financial freedom, what happens is they're like, man, let's get the heck out of here. Let's leave. We're done with this, right? But what happens is though, they bring with them their identity, right? The structure, the consistent paychecks, the hourly shifts. They bring that with them. They're like, okay, I'm going to start my own business. I get my license. It's very simple. Not a big deal. It doesn't, like my dad would say, this is Mickey Mouse. This is so easy. You guys just drive people around and get like $7,000 a closing and stuff. This is crazy. But then people come over here to your business and realize there's a lot to do here, right?
Yeah.
And then what starts to happen though is the client tells you no. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute, the client tells me no? Or you start procrastinating a little bit. You say, you know what, I don't have to wake up at 8 o'clock. I can wake up at 10. You know what, I can push this prospecting call to the afternoon. And then guess what happens?
You don't do it. Never do it.
You don't do it. And then little by little, all of these little kinks of like, oh wait, I worked this deal for 9 months and all of a sudden now, their debt to income ratio, right Steve, you were telling me like the debt to income ratio now just completely changed because they found the lease with him and his wife were on there. Now they're using, the bank's using to get some, that's it, the deal's done, right? Does that happen? Yes, it does. But what happens is, if you have that employee mindset still and that employee identity, that's why 87% of agents quit.
I love that.
That makes sense?
I love that. Absolutely.
Right?
It makes a lot of sense.
100% sense. If you have an employee identity and employee mindset, you're gonna quit. 1,000% quit because you ask Gary Vee, you ask Grant Cardone, what did they tell you? Someone says no to you, what do they say?
Next.
So, exactly, next. Just keep on going. That's a different mindset. They don't tell you about mindset. They just tell you what, just do it. Well, that's a whole different kind of conversation. But, so you all know, that's why people quit. So remember, good habits and systems make a ton of sense, but if they conflict with your what? Identity, you will fail to make change for the long term. Always. Like with food. We all know we should be eating better, all of us, but it happens to me también. Hay veces que estoy comiendo, and I'm literally eating the food I should not be eating, telling myself I should not be eating this, and I'm eating it, right?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it's like, oh my God, who cares, man? It's the truth,
Yeah.
Funny.
right? Even though it makes sense, you guys know, consistently prospecting, duh, makes sense, but then you don't do it, right? Because your identity hasn't been checked out. You haven't changed that, which is obviously what we teach of how to change that identity. We all know we should be working out a certain way. We all know we should be prospecting, but we don't because it conflicts with our current identity. So the actions to execute these outcomes are going against their current identity. So the question I ask you is this: how do you know if you have an employee identity? That's a question people ask us. They're like, well, okay, Andy, this makes sense, but are you talking about me? Here's the question. If you have any negative feeling towards prospecting, you have an employee identity. Does that make sense?
Wow.
Because if you think like Tom Ferry, like he says, like you just talk to everyone, and if people tell you to go F yourself, they're like, all right, fine. They don't even think about it. They're not happy when things are great, and they're not happy when things are going bad. Does that make sense? They're just doing it because that's what they do. Right? Steve Jobs, all these brilliant minds, you ask them, isn't it great? Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, we can talk about this. Bill Belichick, right, with New England, the coaches, they don't care. You see them lose, they're all just like this. Okay, we lost. When they win, they're like, okay, we won. But it's their identity that's at the core of what they're doing, and the outcomes just take care of themselves over and over and over again. So if you have a negative feeling toward prospecting, you have an employee identity. That's how you're able to know that. So now let me share this with you all. Because Stephanie and Tom were both told to make 20 calls a day when they got their license. They were both wanted to be top producers. And by the way, who wants to be a top producer here? Raise your hand. Okay, good. If you didn't raise your hand on that one, I was gonna be like, come on, guys.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. So they were both told to make 20 calls a day. But the problem was Tom was not making those calls because it was going against his what? The identity, right? His identity. He wanted the money. He wants what the agents make online, and he sees those TV shows. He's like, man, I want that. But just because you want something doesn't mean what? You're gonna get it. And actually do the work to actually get it. Because Tom would say things like this: I'm not good at prospecting. Or he says, I'm not a people person. That's what some people say. They say that to themselves. Se lo dicen. Like, no, I'm not good with people. And that's all lies that people are running on. But they're showing that with what they're saying, like, oh, I'm not good at prospecting. And when you hear that, by the way, when you hear people say, I just had to eat that cake, or I just have to, I'm not good with people, their identity is speaking. Because that's what they believe they can or cannot do. So that's another good way for a tip for you all, so you can start to identify people's identities. Like, damn, man, that person's struggling not because they don't have willpower, it's because they don't believe it in themselves, man. It's a lot of empathy there. It's not like I tell realtors, I go, I beat you up with love because I'm like, I know you guys have the willpower and discipline. Motivation has nothing to do with it. It just has to do with your belief level. Because once you believe you can do something, nobody can stop you. So now, another limiting belief is, I don't like being what? Uncomfortable, right? So let's put this into perspective really quick. Meaning, realtors are in a situation where they're avoiding the most critical thing about their business. Let me explain the story really quick. So let's pretend you're in your home office, all right? You're working from home, you're working at a Starbucks, you're working here, you're coming in here. And just like Tom and Stephanie, you're instructed to make 20 calls a day. And you have your FSBO sheets out, you have your expireds out, your personal database, whatever list you're running off of, you're looking at it, you're going, okay, gotta make my 20 calls, vamos. Okay, and right before you're about to make this phone call, you pick up your phone, you start feeling a little what? Uncomfortable, right? A little bit like, I don't know. You start thinking, but what if I'm calling at a bad time? What if they yell at me like that one FSBO did that they were pissed off? And like, yes, okay, I feel better now. All right, this is good. Then you sit back at your desk again, you're about to make your calls, then all of a sudden you look at your desk and you go, wow, my desk is a little messy. I can't prospect with a messy desk? Come on. Right? You're like, okay, I'll just do this really quick and then you fix it up, the drawers, también, oh my gosh, the highlighters. I'm like, okay, great. Now I can prospect, man. Okay, this is good. You sit down y de repente alguien entra. ¿Quién quiere cafecito? I need cafecito. I need it. I can't prospect with no caffeine. Okay, and then you go and you talk. Great. Brady talks about how great he is. It's awesome. Minutes go by, and dude, and it's like, oh, you go back and you sit down. You're like, what was I gonna do again? Oh, I got a prospect. All right, hold on. And then you're like, you know what I'm gonna do right now? No, de verdad, you're probably thinking that. Like, what if they hang up on me or something? Then you're like, you know what? I'm gonna probably call my cell phone provider and probably like switch my healthcare provider as well, really quick. And then, you see what I'm doing here, right? Yeah. This is true. If it's not you, you know of people doing this, right? Meaning, realtors avoid the most critical thing to grow their business the most, which is prospecting. Isn't that such a crazy paradox, right? That the one thing you need to do to grow your business is to consistently prospect, and that's the one thing you guys avoid. That's why Mike and I, we said we need to serve realtors to help them understand and not beat themselves up, because they beat themselves up, they think I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm not motivated. And self-sabotage starts to happen. But it's not that at all. It's about that identity. And I'm going to cover exactly how to get that identity. That's a real thing right there, because a lot of people struggle with it. It's a real problem. And all the laughing happening just confirms that you all know it happens. By the way, it happens with me too. Because I have to call in prospect to get these deals. So I DM George, I DM Dave, I DM all these brokers, right? You know, Julie Realty. I just DM all these people. And it's scary, right? Because you're like, man, what are they going to do? What are they going to say? Guys, everyone has that voice, but it's about overcoming that voice and having that identity that you still execute while being uncomfortable. And that's what we teach you all to do. So the real estate agent pretty much does everything besides prospecting. Prospecting is the most critical part of your business. We agree there. So the key is taking you from an employee identity to a what? To a top producer identity, right? To an entrepreneur identity. Top producer identity. Those are the same exact ones, right? So that's the key to make the change that you want in your business. Now, to go to the next level in your business, you need that entrepreneurial and top producer identity. And to make change, to prospect consistently, to become a top producer, you need to change your what? Identity, okay? Because here's what I tell you all, another example. If I were to give you right now the body of your dreams, te lo regalo. Your abs, your glutes, your cut right here if you want that, buns, whatever you're looking for, guys. I don't know what you're looking for. Your body of your dreams, okay? She's looking at me like, this guy is crazy as heck. Yes, I am, I know. So, think about the body of your dreams. You want it. And I were to give you the game plan. I were to give you how to work out. I were to give you when to wake up. I were to give you exactly what foods to eat. I gave that all to you, okay? If you didn't have the identity though tied to taking the actions needed to keep that body, let me ask you all a question. Do you think you would maintain that body? No. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Even if given to you, what would happen in 6 months? You wouldn't do it at all. So you wouldn't maintain it. Zero. You would not maintain it. Why? Because every time someone came to you, right, and said, hey, you want a slice of pizza?
Or you want a croqueta?
Una croqueta. I used to say that in my presentation. I stopped saying it, but it always finds its way back into my presentation. So I didn't bring it up. I did it. Because Mike was asking me, my business partner, he goes, Andy, why are you always talking about croquetas? I don't like croquetas. He's like, why are you saying that? I go, well, everyone loves them.
Yeah.
He goes, don't say it though. You don't like them. I'm like, all right, fine. See, the camera, Mike, she said it first. Sometimes I didn't bring up croquetas. But if someone gives you croqueta, comes in con croquetas, you're like, I gotta have croquetas, right? Or someone says, you want a piece of cake? Ay, claro que sí. Or you have a Puerto Rican friend that's bringing you coquí for the holidays? You're like, of course. But then again, I think we all have to have some of that, right? But you go watch the game, you have to have wings, right? You have to have that experience. So I just gave you the body of your dreams, but if you have the identity that you currently have and you have to have all these foods, because at an identity level, that's who you think you are, you're going to lose your body in 6 months or faster. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's why I say no one can give you success. No one can give you a body. Lottery, you win it, great. 80+% of those people go broke. NBA athletes, 80-something% of them go broke after their careers. NFL athletes, same thing, because think about it. They have an identity with their bodies. They look great when they retire, don't they? Right? Because they've had an identity their whole life of working out their whole life. They have that identity. But the second their payday came when? Rapidito, right? They turned 18, 21, they got a $20 million deal. They didn't have a money identity, so they don't know how to spend it the right way. That's what starts to happen. Now, these voices will start to consume you in your mind of like, oh man, I have to have this, I have to do this, right? So those identities are getting in the way of the results that we want today. Same thing about giving you a book of business. If I were to give you a top producer's book of business today and said, hey, here's $10 million of a book of business, y te lo doy con todo. With the CRMs, with the contacts, with the appointments you have to go on, everything laid out. Same scenario. What would happen to that book of business in 6 months?
Double it up.
That would be great, right? But if someone that's making $40,000 a year is given a $10 million book of business, they're gonna bring that $10 million book of business back down to what?
$1.
$1, right? $40,000 a year. Why? Because what starts to happen is without the right identity, you won't be able to maintain the business because your current results are tied to your current identity. And as meetings would pop up, say you have meetings coming up. Okay, great. You'll push them to what? Later times. You're like, no, I'm gonna do that later. I gotta pick up my kids, or I gotta go hang out here with my buddies. I gotta go to a networking event. And then you start pushing things off. And then what starts to happen is these little voices of, you know what? I won't prospect today. Or you'll hear, I'll give them a call when? Next week. Or I'll go mañana. Or I'll just do that tomorrow. And what starts to happen is your current identity will give you the current results you have again. Does that make sense? That's why no one can give you success. No one can give you that right there. You have to just change your identity. So like I said, then the $10 million book of business dwindles down to the current amount of money that you're doing today, because your current habits and behaviors are the ones that are giving you the results that you have today. So this is powerful. I love this because this here changed my life. Big time. Because it's critical to start with changing your identity first and not focus on what? Outcomes. And that's tough to tell people. Because if you tell people, don't focus on losing weight, people are like, no, but what do you mean? You got to focus on that. But that's why people lose 10 pounds, and when they would lose 10 pounds, guess what happens? They gained it back again, because that was their only objective, was the outcome objective. They didn't care who they were when in that process, they cared about what they got. And once you get that, then you're like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna go back to what I was before. That's why long-term change doesn't happen. So now we all understand that it's important to change your current employee identity to a top producer identity. So now, I got 2 questions that I'm gonna answer for you all, which is, number 1, Andy, how is your identity formed? And number 2, how do you form a top producer's identity? We'll talk about that right now. So please write this down. The way you will form a top producer's identity is by creating what? Habits. Write that H word down. Habits. Habits run our life. Habits run our life. Such as? Prospecting is a habit, by the way. Top producers have the habit of consistently prospecting. But let me break this down. The definition of a habit is an action that you've done so much that it becomes what? Automatic. It's not conscious. Do you realize that? You do it to do it. Good and bad. That's why when you're eating the bad food, you're eating it not because you don't have willpower, it's because you're in the habit of eating that food when you're stressed. Does that make sense? You go to the refrigerator, you eat the same thing because it's right there calling your name and it's visual cues. A lot of science going on as to why you're grabbing that. It has nothing to do with a willpower. It's that your system of habits is off and is producing, a very different outcome for you. So as you create a habit, the evidence builds up and your identity begins to change. So the way your employee identity was formed was because we have evidence of doing it. Remember, we all come from employee backgrounds, working a job for 10 or 20 years. So we have 10, 20, 30 years of evidence that structure, consistent paycheck, you're supposed to get a result if you work hard, right? It's embedded into us as a habit because we've seen evidence of it for so long. So that's why it's hard for you to convert over to an entrepreneur on your own, because you're so used to being an employee. Does that make sense? Even if you're right now 3, 4, 5 years, doesn't matter. You were an employee for 30, 15. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I'm telling you, it takes that consciousness to switch it over, which we teach you how to do, of course. If you go to church every week, you would consider yourself a what? A religious person, right? You ask Abuelita or somebody from back in the day or whatever and ask them, they go every single Sunday to church, they consider themselves a religious person. That's their identity. Or if you walk into a room and say hi to everybody, you consider yourself a people person. That's what you do. Or if you say, Andy, I wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning every day, you would consider yourself a morning person. Some people say this, and I used to say this too. I would say, I'm not a morning person. But you're just driving yourself into a deeper hole by saying that. Because that's just a belief level of myself not doing it. Does that make sense? Because I'm used to waking up at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then going to bed at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 10 o'clock, switching it around, no consistency. So of course, I have evidence of not wanting to wake up because that's what I've seen my whole life, right? So that's why I tell you all, you gotta have those habits in check. So what you need to know is, each experience in your life right now impacts your identity to become a top producer. Because, I will say this also, which is great, because the majority is what wins when it comes to habits. Because if you just eat food bad one time, are you gonna gain weight for that one time? No. If you don't prospect one day, does that mean you never prospect? No. That's what I love about habits is, you just have to have the majority of your habits on point. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because if you just played basketball one time, would you consider yourself a basketball player? No, not at all, okay? So as you prospect consistently, then the evidence accumulates, right? You're like, oh wow, I've been making phone calls all day. Oh, I've been making phone calls once a day, or whatever that is. You start seeing that, and then your identity begins to change. So the actions you do inconsistently fades away. So if you're eating good 80, 90% of the time, that's fine. Like those, you can have your cake and have your ice cream, it's fine. Those won't catch up with you because the majority of the time you're actually doing well. So while the actions such as prospecting that you do again and again, what they do is they reinforce your desired identity, okay? So the way to prove to yourself on prospecting consistently is to actually start to do it, right? So your habits prove to be your habits provide the most evidence that shapes the top producer's identity that you actually want. So that's why I had you write habits, because habits are what run our life. And so you guys know, 43% of our daily life is on autopilot. Haven't you guys noticed you guys drive your car and you get somewhere and then you're like, how the hell did I get here? No te pasa, right? You're like, did I just run this red light? Like, I have no idea what I did. Like, but that's your brain going, you're welcome, dude. You can do that, girl, because I got you. I'm a habit, and I make sure that you can freaking drive. And I'll do everything else. That's what habits do. But then the problem also hurts you when that habit is like, dude, don't pick up that phone. Get the cafecito. I got you. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes habits don't serve you. Habits don't care about your outcome. Habits just do what they've always done with you, and that's it, to change your state. They don't care if it's making you money or making you lose weight or having you gain weight. It doesn't care. That's why you have to make sure you are intentional with that. And what's so great about habits, and as you slowly start to change your habits, you slowly start to what? Trust yourself. And I will tell you, that is the best relationship you can have. When you walk in and you know you can do certain things, and no one can motivate you more than you can motivate yourself. Because if you know you can do something and you prove it to yourself, there's no better feeling in doing that. Now, when you trust yourself, you take actions on whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Such as, I can prospect. And you'll do so, but you have to believe in yourself and you have to change your identity. So what I want you to do really quick, all right, is do a little visualization exercise really quick about being a top producer, and I want you to close your eyes really quick, all right? She's like, yes. I can't wait to close my eyes.
No, I'm not along with it.
All right, really quick. I want to close your eyes because I want you guys to feel this really quick, because this is a really great thing that I learned with Tony Robbins. Has anyone been to a Tony Robbins event? You need to go to a Tony Robbins event. It's great. So close your eyes really quickly, and then I'm going to tell you to open your eyes in about 90 seconds. But we're going to just walk through this little visualization exercise really quick. So I want you to picture yourself just walking into a supermarket. You walk in through the double doors. You see a couple there that you know them, and you went to high school with them. And you start to feel the uncomfortable feeling slightly of not talking to them about you being a realtor. But what you do is you walk up to them, you shake hands with them, you make them laugh, you say something funny again, you connect the dots for them, and then all of a sudden the conversation comes up about you being a realtor, and then you just tell them that, hey, I'm a resource for you. They love what you're telling them. They're saying, you know what, thank you so much for giving me this information. And it just comes out so natural. It's a very natural conversation you're having with them. And then you just say bye, you got their information, and you move on again. And you see somebody else in the checkout line. As you're waiting, they ask you, hey, you ask them, hey, what do you do for a living? And they ask you what you do for a living. You talk again, you connect again, and you provide yourself being a resource for them again, and it happens naturally. And you're just connecting. You're like, man, I just made 2 or 3 like leads here in the grocery store. This feels great. Now I want to take you to a phone right now. You're at home. You're in your home office. You pick up your iPhone. You have your list in front of you, a FSBO list. And you're looking at this list going, man, there's a lot of calls that I have to make today, but you say, you know what? I'm just going to connect with the other person on the phone, and you call that other person on the phone, and you don't care what the outcome is. This person can yell at you, scream at you. They can say whatever it is, but you don't care anymore. You have one bad experience, and you say, you know what? That's fine. I don't know what was wrong with them, but it's okay. I'm going to keep on going. And then you make another phone call, and another phone call, and another phone call, and you don't care about the outcome at all, and you make a connection with people on the phone. You're writing down listing appointments now, listing presentations that you have to get ready for now, and you're slowly beginning to build your database this way. Whether the experiences are great or whether the experiences are bad, you're just connecting with everyone around you. That's what it feels like to be a top producer and have that identity. So open up your eyes. Just a little bit of visualization. I want you to go through that, to feel that. To feel that, because those voices are real, guys. People think it's easy to be a realtor. No es fácil. Like to be on your own, y estás en la casa, y estás pensando, you know what, maybe I should just go back to my old job. Maybe I should just do something else and not do this. These are really thoughts that people think about. And I truly want you to take today seriously, because this is your livelihood. And people are counting on you guys. You guys have families behind you that are counting on you to do certain things. So that's why I tell students, forget about outcomes and focus on what? Identity. Because when you have that identity, you walk up to everybody. And by the way, personality has nothing to do with it, because I'm very energetic, as you can tell. And I'm kind of like on the low end right now, you know, and I'm super hype. But my business partner, Mike, he's more stoic, más tranquilo, very chill, pero el tipo también habla con todo el mundo, a su estilo. Does that make sense? Yeah. Personalities have nothing to do with me being a people person. It has to do with my identity. Everyone can change their identity and become a people person. Does that make sense? Because personalities, you have your style. You don't have to be hype like me, running through windows to say hi to people, and I don't need another person to have a conversation. I just talk, right? But not everyone's like me. So that's why I tell people, personality aside. It has nothing to do with anything. I'm talking about identity. And identity is what all of us can change to do. And that's how you become a top producer, is not caring about the CRM, the scripts to use. Yes, that works. Yes, it does work. But at a fundamental level, like I tell people, if that gym equipment works if you go to the gym. But if you don't go to the gym, no importa nada, right? So the question is, right now that you have to answer is, are you becoming the top producer you want today? With your actions. You know what you're doing and you know what you're not doing. So you're the only one that can answer that question. Like, is your trajectory right now, are you going to that top producer identity? Or do you find yourself just being busy? Busy and busy and busy. Y terminas tu día. You finish your day and you're like, what did I do today? Right? Your phone's ringing out the hook. You're picking up everyone's phone calls, making everything happen, but you're not moving your business forward. Does that make sense? Right? You're not being intentional with your day. So that's a question you all got to answer yourself. Because remember, the first step to changing is not caring about how you're going to do it or about what you're going to do. It's about what? Who? Who do you want to be? Identity, right? Because if not, you will experience the ups and downs of trying to change all the time. That's why people, they start these crash diets. Yes, I'm gonna do CrossFit. Mamo, let's do CrossFit. Let's do this thing with the band, and this is great. My friends in Colombia do it. Awesome. They do it for 2 weeks, and then they go back to their same old habits. Does that make sense? Right? That's why change doesn't last long until you change your current identity. So this is where real estate agents, by the way, need to start to go to the next level. That's where you got to start from an identity level. Now, speaking of start, we spoke about the beginning. I got a little treat for you guys. I want to give you some exposure to a really cool program, because you all know the most important part of your day is what? The morning, right? So what we have here is our quick program. I want to share this with you really quick, that nails down these 4 things here, by the way. I will tell you this. If I can give you a program that gives you control of your day, helps you prospect consistently, gives you uninterrupted time for you, which, by the way, that's big. Because I'm going to tell you this. If you're not at a level 10 in your life, you cannot be a level 10 realtor. Does that make sense? If you're at a level 6, you will be a level 6 to your clients. Does that make sense? If you're a level 4 in your personal life, like with the love with yourself and how much your identity with yourself is at a 4, you can only be a 4 to your kids. Does that make sense? Because people think, oh no, I love my kids more than me. Bullshit. Because if you're not doing well, you pass that on to everyone you talk to. In the way you look at them, your vibe, your energy. Don't you realize when you talk to people que están en otro mundo, that you're like, what's wrong with you? They're just not there, right? Because you're thinking about, oh man, what appointment should I be on right now? Like, what's going on? Or I'm busy, I'm overwhelmed. And then you start panicking, right? And you're like, where should I be? That's the reality of it. So that's why we love this morning routine for realtors program that Mike and I created, to help people have time for themselves, and then obviously stop feeling overwhelmed and unorganized. Would you say that's pretty powerful to have? Yes or no?
Yes.
Of course it is, okay? Now, this program, we sell it for $199. And that's a joke of a price, because if you can help me be in control of my day, I'll pay you a lot more than $200, right? I will tell you this though. Who would like this for free? Raise your hand. Okay, that's another one. If you didn't raise your hand on that one, I'll be like, come on. She's like,
I'm here.
so take out your phones, because I'm going to give it to you guys for free. Okay? Take out your phone, and I want you to text the word habit to this number here. And you're going to get it. The what?
My phone died.
Did you just write it out? Yeah, write out the phone number. No, that's fine.
Can I do it later? Or
Yeah,
good?
yeah, absolutely, you can get it later. Yeah, no, absolutely. Just write down the phone number, type habit, and then it's going to ask you a series of questions. It will ask you for your email, your name. No, I think email, and that's it. Yeah, because we changed our automation. By the way, if you guys want to have automation in your business, you better. Automation is super cool. Okay, this is a great way to capture people's information if you think about it. Their name, their cell phone number, and you give them value. You're going to see that PDF that you guys are going to get immediately. This morning routine course, I'm telling you all, if you just did that today, you're going to see such an improvement in your days. You're going to be like, Andy, thank you so much. And we used to sell it, but now we're like, nah, I'm going to give it to, like I told George, I'm going to give all your realtors some really good value. So we love doing that. Did you guys get that, by the way? Did it ask you the questions?
Yeah, I got
It
it.
didn't ask you for your name, did it?
No, just the email.
Email? And then that's it? Okay, so she changed it. Good. No, we just hired somebody else, and she's like, no, just go get it faster. Just get an email and then move faster. Done. And then if you click on it, it sends you to the PDF, right? You guys see it?
Okay, my
Perfecto.
teléfono, así como hábitos.
Yeah, exacto. Y manda eso, ¿eh?
Pero solo hábitos,
Sí,
no
solamente.
pongo nombre, ¿no?
No, nada. Ahora te va a preguntar. 5, 2, 6, 4, 6. Oh, because you have subject. We'll
Okay.
send that PDF straight to you. Pon tu email. Ahí, ponelo ahí. And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
So it'll be in your inbox, or it'll be you click it. It's called our habit check. The habit checklist is great. That helped me out a lot because I used to be a non-morning person. I just wake up. I hate the morning. I don't say that, Andy. I used to hate the morning, right? 'Cause I don't want my old identity coming back. And this helped me out drastically because what happens, what a lot of people do is they wake up and the first thing they do is they open up their what? Their phone. And then they start going through all those notifications, y todos los WhatsApp chats and all the Facebook alerts, and then you find yourself on your phone for 30 minutes in bed. And then you push prospecting and going to the gym out later because you have the flexibility to do whatever you want, and that's a problem as well. So that morning routine I just gave you will solve all that issues for you and gets you out of your bed, knocking out everything you gotta be doing. Super cool. I love that stuff. So I geek out on like reprogramming yourself and improving. So you'll love that.
Awesome.
All right?
Thank you.
So enjoy that. You're welcome. So you have the power to change your beliefs about yourself, okay? Your identity is not set in what? Stone. Remember that. Just because you have remember, and by the way, you can have an identity at home and a different identity at work. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like you can change your identities at home. Like some people are more passive at home than at work. But then they're like, oh no, but you can always change things. You're like, no, but I'm not used to talking to them. You can change your identity. Absolutely you can, okay? That's what, of course, that's what we teach. So you have the choice in every moment. Thank you for pointing at me. And you can choose the top producer's identity you want today with the habits you choose today, all right? So now, why I'm here today is this, and I want to finish it up with this here because this is truly why habits are so important. Because the real reasons why habits matter is this. Creating habits isn't about learning a bunch of hacks, right? Where people are like, if you just do a cold shower, yeah, so you'll learn about pain and you'll be successful. I'm like, nah, I get what you're saying, but nah, all right, relax, okay? Mike, I'm not making fun of you. I know you take cold showers, but I'm saying, I know he does that, right? Or, you know, Andy, you gotta mirror people when you talk to them. I'm like, no way. I do it, right? But for other reasons, like just like to wake me up, right? Or people say, Andy, you should. I saw this thing on TV. This realtor was selling. No, it wasn't on TV. I think it was at a Tom Ferry event. It was terrorist tactic strategies. Scripts, bro. He has scripts that he used as a terrorist negotiator. Algo así ridículo. It wasn't at Tom Ferry. Had to be on TV because Tom Ferry wouldn't allow that shit to happen. It was insane, but the guy's selling these terrorist tactic. Guys, if you say this to your clients, you're gonna get them. I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? People do this, but people buy that stuff because they think if I buy something, I'm going to be successful. Does that make sense? Because those scripts won't work unless you make the phone calls consistently. Does that make sense? Until you change that identity. That's what I love about it. Or it's not about like wearing the same outfit. You know how a lot of high performers, they wear the same outfits like Steve Jobs and all because you only have a limited amount of decision-making energy in your brain. And so they don't want to make decisions on what to eat and what to wear, honestly. So they wear the same outfits, para que se levante por la mañana, they wear the same clothes, they leave the house so they can leave their higher powered energy of decision-making process left for obviously creating things like iPhones, right, and strategy. So what I'm telling you is habits is not a bunch of just hacks that I tell people. What it is this, and what it's not is, it's not about reaching some sort of material success either, where people are like, Andy, I want to consistently prospect because I want to make a lot of money. Okay, now I get it. Money, cars, and all that, I get it. Habits can help you achieve those things. I get that, and it will. But that's not the reason why I teach habits. At the core, habits aren't about having something. It's about becoming someone. Does that make sense? Because no money can buy for you the love and respect you have for yourself when you know you should be doing something and you're doing it. Eso no te lo quita nadie. That is the best feeling ever. When you're walking through your day and you're like, I'm doing everything I need to be doing. I'm at the right appointment. This is what I told myself yesterday I was going to be doing, and I'm doing it. This is exactly what's going on. And then that self-love, that kind of life is what habits allow people to do. Because I've seen people that before were like, I just don't know if I can do it. And they were surrounded with all these great tools and resources. But then when you change their habits, you just change their belief level about themselves. And what happens is, once they change their habit in one arena, guess what else they do? They change it in another one. They start losing weight. Because this is our program, I'm going to talk about my program as well later on. More than just habits on prospecting, because once you learn about habits of prospecting, you just learn the science of habits and apply it to your fitness. Does that make sense? You use it with your kids. You use it on them. And then you're like, oh my God, now you change your kid's identity on doing things, okay? So, like I said, you showed up here today, even though you're incredibly busy, I get it, for a specific reason. There's 3 of them. Number 1, you feel scattered, where you want to build your business. There are so many strategies and tools that it feels confusing. And it's taking too long for you to get to the results you want to get to. That's probably why you're here today. Or maybe you feel stuck. Your business is not making enough money. You know the lack of consistently prospecting is holding you back maybe. You're like, man, Andy, I know I should be consistently prospecting more. I know that's holding me back. Maybe that's you. Do big things and make big things happen, and you know by consistently prospecting, it's going to get you one big step closer. So you have 2 choices today, okay? You always got a choice. Number 1, you keep doing the same thing, and maybe in a few years from now, you'll make more money and you'll gain traction. Awesome. But I also know from talking already and getting the energy from you guys are go-getters, you're doers, right? And I can tell just by your broker, by George, I see his story, I'm like, dude, this guy, those energies go to his team. You see that, right? And I see it in the meetings and all that, so you guys are go-getters. You don't want to wait a couple of years to do so. So your choice also is decide right now to start changing your habits and consistently prospect so you become a top producer. So really quickly, and then I'm done, I want to talk about Habit University and what Habit University is all about really quick. First of all, it's a comprehensive program, meaning if you can follow a recipe, you can follow this program and be successful in doing so. Guys, we literally have modules over modules over modules, over 40 of them, and in each module you have sub-modules, even if that's a word, right? Over 40 different lessons, cheat sheets, workbooks, accountability systems, checklists, and all the trainings online. It's a lot, and it's step by step. Just follow the recipe, that's all you gotta do. But more than that, I call those the features. Great. But the true benefits of the program are this. If you feel discouraged, confused, or you feel too busy, or you're bored, or overwhelmed, like I told you all, this is what Habits does for you. Because I got students in my program, they're like, Andy, I had no idea what I was doing in my business. I was just picking up the phone call whenever it would ring, and then whatever they told me to do, I just did. Yeah, that's how I ran my business. I was bored. I didn't know what to do next. Or other people are like, Andy, hago de todo, and those emails que vienen, I write to everyone and great, but then they're scattered all over the place. And they feel like they're working 40, 50 hours a week, and they're still making $40,000 a year, right? And they're like, what am I doing, okay? So what's great about this, the program of habits, is Habit University will help you out with that because, like I told you all before, it helps you connect with who? Yourself. Your habits, right? Of what you should be doing in your business. Now you all know you should be prospecting is the most important habit everywhere, not just on the phone. So I want you to write this down. This is the science behind habits, so you guys can understand how a habit is created. So what we've created in our program, we follow the 4 laws to habit creation, and it's called the 4 factors to financial freedom. Because once you learn these 4 in our program, you're consistently prospecting, and guess what happens when you consistently prospect? You start making some more money. That's what has to happen. So now, the 4 laws are make it noticeable, make it appealing, make it simple, and make it what? Enjoyable. Remember, good habits and bad habits need these 4 laws. Guess what happens if you skip one of the steps? You go backwards, right?
Yeah.
The habit will not form if you skip one of these steps. The reason why you may be broke or overweight was because the little habits you were doing in some shape or form was noticeable, appealing, simple, and enjoyable. Are you sure, Andy? Think about this. What if you unplugged your TV and unmounted it from the wall, and every time you wanted to watch TV, you had to mount the TV and plug it in? Would you have the habit of watching TV? No, because that sounds very complicated, and it's not, make it simple. Does that make sense? No, te lo digo en serio. The reasons why you watch TV is because all you gotta do now is say, Alexa, turn on my TV. Toma, it's there. Netflix does a great thing for you. When you're done watching an episode, what does it do for you? So graciously. It graciously plays the next one, because Netflix understands that if we embed our programming into habits, you have no chance with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
You
for sure.
You're like, the remote control is right here. 15, 14, 13. I'm just going to sit here. 13, 9, 8, 7, 6. All right, let's watch this episode again. Guys, it's science. It's not me, it's science. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the science of habits and we're going to make you prospecting machines with that to consistently prospect. So an example, like Steven, when he did in our program, you hear about a story, which is great, is when you first started prospecting in our program and someone told me, hey, you want to make 20 calls a day. That doesn't sound what? Simple. If you're not making 20 calls a day and you want to start at 20, that's not simple. So guess what we have you do? One. But Andy, but one. It's not about the what, it's not about the how, it's about the who, right? We got to change your identity. How do you change your identity? You start having evidence in your day that you're a prospector, right? How do you prospect every day? Do once a day for a week. Try that out. By the time it's done, you're like, oh, cool. Then you do 2 a day. Does that make sense? And then you have a couple weeks and you're like, hey, I prospected all month. The entire month. That was pretty cool. Does that make sense? And then that internal voice starts changing, right? Those are some of the strategies we're going to teach you all how to do in our program. Now, within each law, there's a bunch of sub-laws, right? I just gave you an example of one of them of making it simple. But on making it noticeable, we go over habit checklist. What, when, and where, habit linking, and environmental design. I did habit linking to lose weight, not years ago, 18 months ago, when I was doing push-ups after I would take a shower. Meaning, I do a desired action after I do something that I do every day. Does that make sense? Meaning, I don't have to wait for inspiration to do a push-up. I go, oh, every time I take a shower, I'm gonna do 5 push-ups. Because the thing is, I'm always gonna take a shower. Does that make sense? So you go, oh, shower, oh, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I get up, doesn't take much time, doesn't need motivation, I don't need willpower, I do that. You do that for 2 months, and all of a sudden, you start feeling good about yourself because you said, you know what? I'm someone that works out. And then you start what? Increasing, right? Because obviously you can't gain results, 5 freaking push-ups. But at first, results don't matter when you're changing your habit. It's all about changing your identity. Does that make sense? I'm trying to give you guys little nuggets of our program so you can see what we do. And then environmental design. We do a digital design change as well, like the way your apps are on your phone. If your first page, by the way, has everything like Facebook and Instagram and all that on there, we're gonna have to change that for you. You should only have 1 page of your CRM, right? Our program, your mail, like your email provider, and that's it. Because that's why your phone, by the way, guess how many times you pick up your phone a day?
1 million.
Closer. Like 80 to 90 times you're looking at your phone. Think about that, right? Okay, so you want to make sure, that's what I said. If you have a croqueta lying on the kitchen counter table, you're gonna probably eat it, right? So don't make it easy for you to do that, or don't have your environment do certain things. So we're gonna change that for you. The second factor of make it appealing, there's habit pairing, finding the right tribe, and making it fun first. Because I'm gonna tell you something. If what you're doing is not fun, if you don't make prospecting fun, guess what? You're not gonna make it happen. Does that make sense? People say, no, like Grant Cardone will say, make 100 calls a day. Bullshit. Because by the time you get through 4 or 5 calls, people yelling at you in fizzballs, bro. Are you kidding me? No one wants to talk to you. Like, people are mad at you. And you're like, why? It's not fun. And that's why people that start CrossFit early on, they say, hey, I'm gonna do CrossFit for 2 hours, an hour, but that's not fun at first. Does that make sense? It's fun after you get to that point, but first do 1 phone call, 2 push-ups, drink 1 less soda a day. Right? Don't just say, I'm going to do a crash diet and get rid of all this bad food. No, don't do that. Because that's not fun. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're not where you need to be physically because you're not making the diet fun. That's what I tell people. It's science. The third factor, make it simple. We have more subsets we'll teach you. Take away hurdles, prep the environment. Decisions, that's my favorite emoji, by the way. Start really small, and tech time. We're gonna make all that happen for you all, so you're leveraging your phone and everything for you. And then the fourth factor is make it enjoyable. Immediate reward, enjoy boredom, which is one that I had to learn. Because I'm so hyper that I wasn't used to being still. And now I've gotten used to, like, when you're still and there's nothing going on, it's okay. You don't have to talk all the time, Andy, right? There's a lot of these things you'll learn in our program as well. As I'm saying, it's beyond even just consistently prospecting. You learn a lot about yourself. The first three factors are to get you starting the habit. The fourth factor is to get you doing the habit what? Consistently, over and over and over again. So you know what the unique training today, because I know you guys are covered with trainings all the time, but trust me when I tell you, nobody is teaching what I'm going to teach you today, which is amazing, especially this, right? Prospecting, consistently prospecting. Is that pretty critical in your business? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, well good. So I want to make sure you guys know that, because I'll be talking about it today. So I know it's late at night, but I want you to stay with me, because at the end I'm going to show you all an opportunity on how to get access to a morning routine program that I have. I'm going to ask you a question. Are morning routines pretty important? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. It's the most important time of your day is the morning, because if you don't dominate your morning, you won't dominate what? The day. So stick around, because I have a really, really cool prize for you all today for being here today on a morning routine program, right? Now, here's a little wordy, but I have a promise to you all here today. It's really cool, and I'm really clear, and I want to show you a lot of visuals today. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how you can crush your stress, worry, and constant struggle of prospecting, because, by the way, is it stressful to prospect? No, de verdad, vamos a hablar claro. Is it stressful to prospect?
Yeah.
Es horrible. Y yo soy una persona, I'm very talkative. I talk to everybody. Y para mí también me da un pánico. It's not easy as people like to make it seem like, right? But you're gonna notice the critical piece of prospecting. So getting rid of that stress, and instead, I'm gonna help you feel confident that you're growing your business. But the only way you're gonna feel this way is if you learn how to what? Consistently prospect. Because no matter what, if you don't consistently prospect, you won't be able to grow your business. Flat out. What's going on, man? How you doing? It's funny because some of you I follow on Instagram, but I haven't met you before, so I feel like I know you, but then I say hi to you and we've never met. So that's why sometimes it's happened. So one thing I will tell you is, can you please turn off, put it on do not disturb. Please, I know you guys have a lot of calls coming in and everything, but I'm a big proponent of, if you learn one thing today that changes your life, is today worth it?
Absolutely.
Big time. So don't take it, I know you guys have a lot going on in your head right now, but if I just need your attention for maybe 45 minutes tops, and I'm telling you, today will change your life, because it's going to teach you exactly what no one is teaching in real estate. So we're going to talk about that. Now, I may not know exactly why you're here today, but it's probably 3 reasons, and I'll see by the look of your face which one is you. Number 1, this is maybe you. You know what you should be doing in your business, but you're not doing it. You know what to do, but you're not doing it. And you're tired of struggling to grow, but you're totally committed to grow your business. This is probably one of the biggest, most popular reasons that when I give my trainings is, realtors, you guys have a lot of training. A lot of people train you guys. George, I speak to him a lot, and I go, George, he laughs at my stories, because he's like, yeah, dude, I give my agents all they need to be successful, but it's only going to become successful if you actually use it, right? So that's why I tell you all, we may know what to do, but we are not probably doing it. So that's probably you today. Number 2, maybe you're a newbie agent that you just started, you just got your license a couple of years ago, so you're excited to grow your business. Welcome. Or you're number 3, you're a part-time agent and you're tired of the 9-to-5 grind, and you're begging to figure out a way to finally be a full-time agent. Okay? Now, I may not know why exactly you're here, but I see some faces, and I like to see the smiles and find out who exactly is what. But all 3 of you, if you're a piece of it, you're in the right place today, and you're going to really enjoy it. So let's talk about a big problem that's happening in real estate right now. Huge problem happening in real estate. Check this out. Did you guys know there's an 87% failure rate in your business? Meaning, a realtor gets their license, and after 5 years in the business, 87% of them quit. That's a problem. Think about that. They get excited, that's why I asked how long you guys been around, because you're approaching year number 5, no? So statistically speaking, 90% of you are pretty much going to be gone. That's crazy. There's a huge disconnect there, and we're going to talk about that. So according to the National Association of Realtors, and it's due to a lack of action, they say. They say agents just didn't prospect, is what their articles were talking about. Now, what I'm hearing out there when I go to all these conferences is this. I hear real estate brokers talking about underachieving agents. I hear brokers say this. Brokers go, I wish my agents would prospect more. I hear this a lot from the business. I also hear this. Who's ever gone to a Tom Ferry event? Anyone here gone to a Tom Ferry? Awesome event. Tom Ferry, and you hear speakers go on stage talking about their books, and they'll say it. Man, guess what? My competition just doesn't know how to work hard. They don't prospect as much as I do. I just work harder than them. You hear a lot of that out there as well from other agents that are top producers. And then another thing that's happening out there is, did you guys know according to Zillow, over 70% of the leads that are sent over to Zillow, from Zillow, are not called back? I repeat, 70% of the agents that, by the way, they're paying for it. These agents are paying for these leads, right? Over 70% of those leads are not called back. So that's what I'm telling you all. There's a big problem here, and I'm going to help you understand what the problem is, but more importantly, how to solve this problem. Because here's what's happening, okay? Here's a nice little visual I like to give you all, okay? I'm a kinesthetic learner. I like to touch and feel and see when I learn. So this is the journey of a realtor, all right? Usually 99% of realtors leave a job, right? We all came from a job at some point. They leave a job, they get their license, they're tired of their boss, they're tired of not having control of their income, they're tired of working for somebody else, whatever that is. They leave, they get their license, they join a brokerage, they get excited, they're like, man, look at all that financial freedom, the planes I can be on, the shopping I can do, I can work my own schedule, it's awesome. It really is, by the way, it really is. But they go in with these hopes and dreams, and then what happens is, this industry provides all the tools and resources for you to be successful. CRMs, lead generators. Out of your phone, you can literally do everything to run your business. It's insane. You do 3D. I went to a convention in Florida, in Orlando, the Florida Association of Realtors, and they have an expo of booths, and I'm walking in to see technology. And I'm seeing you, with your phone, you can do the 3D tour. You put a phone on top of a little device, you leave the room, and it scans the entire room, it uploads it, and boom, you got a 3D tour of that building, of that room, and it's all from your phone. I'm like, this is amazing. Before, you had to spend $5,000 for that kind of machine. Now out of your phone, you can do so much. So all these tools and resources, but yet there's still an 87% failure rate. Do you see the disconnect there? There's a problem there, right? So I told you from the beginning, I can relate to this, and really quick before I get into the teaching, I want you guys to know a little bit about me. First of all, I broke my arm, I tore my bicep, in case you're wondering what the heck I'm doing with this RoboCop here, right?
Yes.
All right. The guy standing over there laughing obnoxiously, he's the one that actually kicked the ball that I blocked in soccer that actually ripped my bicep out. So that's what happened to me. I won the football. But I blocked the shot. So Brady, I blocked the shot, man. That's all that matters, right? It was great. So that's what happened. So a little bit about me there. Broke my bicep. So that's why I'm wearing this. Now a little bit about me, what I've done and what I'm doing. Same thing with me. I came from a job and I was tired of it. I started my own business because I was tired of the 9-to-5 grind, working for somebody else. Now, I wanted control of my life, so I started multiple businesses. I've owned franchises teaching kids soccer, ages 2 to 5. I used to be a motivational speaker for various companies like Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Robert Kiyosaki. That's what I did for so many years. So I've done all that. So I'm a huge guru and a huge consumer of self-improvement. I love all that stuff, right? But I will say this though. As I reach new levels, I approach new devils, I like to say. Because as you start to elevate in your business, you're also going to come across other challenges that you weren't used to at another level. This was a huge problem for me, meaning I was becoming successful, growing my businesses, but then I reached a point where I had old tendencies as an employee and I was bringing them with me as an entrepreneur. So I knew what I had to do to be successful to run my businesses, but I wouldn't do it. I would procrastinate. I would put things off. And I was little by little just ruining my life emotionally and financially. So trust me, I know what it's like to know what to do, but you don't do it. But it started this search for me to figure out what the fuck is going on. Honestly, sorry for cussing, but it's more of a passionate thing for me because I can't stand it. Because I used to sell programs for $5,000, $10,000 for Donald Trump, Zig Ziglar, all these guys 10 years ago, right? And people would buy our programs, they get super excited, they leave my seminar room, my ballroom, and guess what happens a year later? They don't do anything. They just buy these things. They think they're changing their life, but they don't do anything. We're not solving the root problem. If you think buying something is going to solve your problems, guys, okay? And I'm gonna talk about that today. So, we found the solution in doing so, and it was great because I was a CE trainer for realtors and for brokers that came for me for CE credits. And what I found was a huge need in your business for behavioral change. Not stuff. Behavioral change, because you guys know what to do. The problem is you just don't do it, and people, you beat yourself up and you're like, I'm not motivated, I'm not self-disciplined. No, it has nothing to do with that, and I'm going to cover that today. All right, so a little bit about who we are. We're called the how-to guys. Obviously I have a better half. Look at that tall, good looking guy over there named Mike right there to my left. That's Michael Manrique. We've been in business for about 9 years. Those are some of the partners we've been talking to now. Like I told you, I've spoken here before with Lifestyle, Avanti, Cobo Banker, all across Miami. This is what I do. You guys are my specific niche audience, and you will see exactly why that's the case. So now, let's get into the story now of how can I consistently prospect without the stress. All right, so here we go. So we have 2 real estate agents, Stephanie and Tom. Tom's making $40,000, and Stephanie's making $200K. She's crushing them. There you go, good for her. Now, when I ask realtors, what do you think the difference is between Stephanie and Tom? These are some of the answers I get. Some people go, Andy, Stephanie has better goals than Tom. Well, I'm here to tell you, no, it's not that. They both have the same vision board, they have the same goals, everything's the same. So goals is not the differentiator at all. Then people say, Andy, Stephanie must have a better lead generator, she's got a better CRM, she's got a better website, tiene algo mejor, así, fácil, no? Well, not at all. And by the way, like I said, are there a lot of tools and resources available for you guys, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, right? You look at, by the way, I feel like we're about to get bombed right now with the plane in the background. No, sorry about that, mine just goes, I'm like, all right, I'm not used to these sounds, guys, sorry about that. So all of these different ways of making money in your business, right? It's all there, but I'll tell you this. They even went to the same Tom Ferry event. They know the same things, okay? So there's no differentiator there on resources, knowledge, or education. It's the same. So what separates Stephanie from Tom is this beautiful word called action. But some of you are saying, okay, she is probably taking massive action and Tom is not taking massive action. Wrong. That's not the case at all. Please write this word down. Write it in your notes. Because you're going to hear this a couple times, but I need you to write it down and embed that. Oh man, can I get a cup of water, please? Thanks, man. He does look like Brady, man. We were making fun of him last time, right? Because I have a man crush on Brady, so when I saw him, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy, he's so dreamy. So stupid, Andy. Sorry about that, guys. Sometimes I'm too transparent, but yeah. All right, so consistent action is what it's all about. I was talking about our Tom Brady backstory. All right, here we go. So it's consistent action because nobody sees what Stephanie is doing behind the scenes. Stephanie is a prospecting machine. She's at Sedano's, she's at Publix, at a children's birthday party, and she's always what? Prospecting. By the way, prospecting never ends. It's a constant thing all the time. You're making those connections. Don't feel, but I'll talk about that as well, okay? She's a prospecting machine, okay? But Tom, he's only prospected when he feels motivated or whenever he has what? Time. That's what he says. He goes, when I have time, I'll prospect. Or when I feel motivated, I'll prospect. And I'll tell you this flat out. If you wait for motivation or time to prospect in your business, you're gonna fail in your business. I'll tell you that flat out. Because motivation is very what?
Up and down.
Very roller coaster, very volatile, very up and down. Sometimes you don't feel like it, do you? Does anyone here have any kids? Who's got kids? Raise your hands. By the way, are there times you don't feel like helping out your kids with homework or doing, right? Can you imagine you're like on camera, like, no kid, I didn't mean you, right? But no, you're right. As a parent, like my mom would tell me, she's like, Mijo, like there's times you just don't feel like doing it. I mean, I just want to put you in the corner and like let you go. Like I don't want to deal with you, right? But that's the truth. But you as a parent, you just do it because you do it. But as a prospecting unit, people go, as soon as they start feeling, the motivation, they're like, oh, I'll do it when I'm feel motivated. So that's a big disconnect there as to why people don't prospect consistently, and we're going to address that. So really quick, if you want massive results in your business, it's not about massive action. It's about what? Consistent action. Now, some of you are saying, Andy, duh, I know this already. But listen up. Just because you know something doesn't mean you're going to do something about it. Because I know a lot of smarter people than me that are just as miserable, they're broke, they're overweight, they have horrible relationships. Oh, pero se lo saben todo, right? They have everything, they have books on it, they'll tell you their opinion on it, but they don't do anything with that information. So I don't want you to be that person that knows everything, right, but doesn't do something about it. So that's why I tell you, I'm gonna teach you all today how to become from that know-it-all, right, to just the person who just does it all the time and just actually takes consistent action. So now, I want you to write this down. Because there's 3 different types of change. Because do you guys want short-term change or do you guys want long-term change?
Long-term.
Long-term change, okay? So long-term change, I want you to look at this target. Look at change like a target. What is the most important part about a target?
The middle.
The middle, right? The bullseye. So I want you to look at change just like this target right over here. So you have the outer ring on top, which is called outcome change. Outcome change talks about, I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to make $250,000 GCI next year. I want to do, I want to start my own business. Outcome is what you focus in on. Great. Then you have the more center ring, which is called process change. Process change now talks about how are you going to get that outcome. I'm going to go to LA Fitness. I'm going to buy the CRM. I'm going to do a juice cleanse. You think of a process of how you're going to get that outcome. But that's usually where people stop. Right there. They don't go any deeper at all. Because there's one more circle right here, which is the most critical, which is called identity change. Identity change talks about your beliefs and your self-image. This is that little voice that says, oh my, look, it's cutting off right there. I hate prospecting, or I love comfort, or I love to eat food. You know those little voices we have, right, inside that sometimes you're almost ashamed to have those voices, but we all have them, right? That's your inner belief, that you believe you can or cannot do something. And we're going to talk about that. So flat out, if you want to take a picture, by the way, this you can as well. Some agents like just taking pictures, be faster notes, but here's what it's all about. Outcomes is about what you get. Process is about what you do. Identity is about what you believe. Okay? Remember, your best relationship is a relationship with who?
Yourself?
Yourself. That's why identity is so critical. We're going to go over this. So now the major problem that we face today is the direction of change. Meaning, we live in a society that everyone focuses on outcomes first. They want, oh, I want the big house. I want that beautiful relationship. I want that money. But no one focuses on the inner identity parts, which we're going to go over. So today, my goal with you is to help you understand and see that if you want to make change, it's not about making change outside in, it's about making it what? Inside out. And I'm going to prove that to you here today. So that's the only direction of change that actually leads to long-term change. And we all agreed, you all want long-term change. Now this is usually how people go about change. Is that people say, you know what? I want that relationship, I want to lose that weight, I want that big house, the fancy cars, the clothes, I want the jewelry, I want the money. I sound like an R&B song right now, like a rap song, right? Like, gosh. So people focus on this. And then they go, all right, let me see how I'm going to get it with a system in place.